These are Gloombats, one of the entities introduced in the Mines update indoors, and they are kind of lame. Don't get me wrong, their models and animations are awesome, but they are pretty much a non-threat as the only way you can aggravate them is by using a light source. And if you just don't have one, or just don't use it, they are effectively useless. This entity is riddled with unused potential. So, in this video, I'll be updating these creatures to actually become more threatening. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so the major improvement I want to make to the Gloombats is to rework their functionality, at least a little bit. As I had stated, these entities are pretty much a non-threat, given how the two ways of aggravating them aren't that intense. The first way to get these entities to attack you is if you hold out a light source, which causes them to pummel themselves towards you. I believe that this mechanic works perfectly fine as is, and it shouldn't be changed at all. The second way to aggravate the Gloombats is by stepping on their eggs, which causes more Gloombats to hatch out of them to join the swarm, which slightly damages you in the process. Now, although that functionality works fine as is, I feel like it could be improved upon as it's pretty much the only way to make these entities threatening without the use of a light source. What I was thinking is that upon stepping on a pile of eggs, many of the Gloombats in the swarm will become aggravated as you essentially are endangering their young. So in response, they'll pummel themselves at you, dealing far more health than what you are currently dealt for stepping on the eggs. It would kinda work like if you were holding out a light source. This is a relatively small change, but I do think it could go a long way, as now players are actually incentivized to avoid the eggs, as the damage caused from stepping on them would actually be significant. However, with that being said, we aren't done with the eggs just yet. You see, now that we've made them the primary way to aggravate Gloombats besides just holding a light source, they should become more difficult to avoid as well, as they currently are pretty easy to spot. So, to fix that, here are the changes I'd make to the eggs themselves. For one, I'd remove the lights placed on the egg, as that way they don't stick out like a sore thumb in dark rooms, which makes them more prone to being stepped on by players. I'd also recommend just slightly increasing their spawns throughout the rooms to further make players prone to stepping on them. With these changes, Gloombats will now become an actual threat to those who just don't have a light source or don't use them, as now they would function similar to Snare, where players must really avoid stepping on eggs to avoid angering the swarm. It also creates a nice contrast between the entity's two functionalities, as for one, you would need a light source to see the eggs in the dark, but you can't use them because then the Gloombats will automatically attack you, and they will break the environmental lights as well. Speaking of the environmental lights, another way Gloombats could be made more challenging is if they broke those at a quicker rate, as that way players have less time to memorize where they are going, which results in them stepping on eggs more. However, we aren't done yet, as there's one more trick up my sleeve, and that is the new entity concept I want to talk about that I have created. This is less of something I'd want to be changed for the Gloombats and just more of a cool thing I came up with that I want to show you, but yeah. This is what I call the Brood Mother. It is kinda like the Queen Grumble of the Gloombat species. You see, rarely in some Gloombat swarms, players could find a brood mother floating around amongst the normal Gloombats. These types of Gloombats are noticeably larger than their normal variations, and they have other extra features such as a longer body, 3 antennas, and a bunch of eggs on their back. Brood mothers would function pretty much the exact same as normal Gloombats, except they are slower and stronger. They would also remember the player for longer, meaning upon activating and deactivating a light source, the brood mother would still be aggressive towards you for a little longer after deactivating it. Additionally, she is also very protective over her eggs, so once you step on some, in addition to all the other Gloombats attacking you, she would as well, and would be aggravated longer than they are. Really, they just exist to spice up the entity encounters every so often, so when players do see them, they know to be extra careful. So, to summarize, I believe that Gloombats in their current state are way too easy, so to make them more challenging, I suggest allowing them to attack you when you break their eggs, to remove the glow effect on the eggs, to increase the spawn rate of the eggs, I've been saying eggs a lot, and to make them break the environmental lights in the rooms quicker. I also provided my concept for a harder and rarer variation of the Gloombat, which although I don't really expect or want to be added, I just wanted to show you all because I thought it was cool. So with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.